Dr. Jayjit Bhattacharya. He's an economist and finance expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Dr. Jayjit, for staying with us and joining us again. Now, what more can you tell us about this U.S. trade with China as well as on soybean farming?
Yeah, U.S. grows about roughly 120, 130 million tons of soya. And the farmers who are growing the soya are the key constituencies of the Trump administration. And one of the promises of the Trump administration was to uplift the conditions and the realizations for the farmers from whatever they're growing, which is primarily soya in this particular case. And therefore, the whole premise of Trump putting in the raft of tariffs that they did was in order to help the American crop growers, the American farmers, and the American manufacturers. Now, none of that, unfortunately, has come out to be true. As was predicted by most economists, that the outcome of this trade war will be very debilitating for the US economy and for the US farmers. We see that the impact on the US farmers is showing up. In a retaliatory move, what China did was stop purchasing from US. And if you look at the export statistics of soya from Brazil, that has jumped up by 64% because China started importing from Brazil and from Argentina. And therefore, there has been a fundamental shift in trade between the US and China, and almost a permanent impact on the farmers of the Midwest of US. Now, obviously, as we had heard, or as was declared by US, that China has entered into an agreement and has promised to buy 25 million tons of soya from the US, but we don't see that happening, and we never heard that being confirmed by the Chinese either. It was only a declaration that the US government gave. So we're not entirely sure whether China did ever promise to pick up 25 million tons of soya from the US, and specifically in the backdrop that there has been no larger trade agreement that the US has entered into with China. And more importantly, if China is getting cheaper soya from Argentina and from Brazil, then why wouldn't they buy that? That makes more sense for them. The outcome of this interaction or this situation has been that the farmers at the peak of the harvest in US are facing a situation where there is no takers for their crop, because out of 125 million tons that they were growing, 25 million was going to China. Many of the farmers can face bankruptcy because soya growing is a large industrial enterprise. It requires tremendous amount of inputs. It's a very expensive proposition, and if the farmers are not able to get their realization and get it in time, it will lead to bankruptcy. They will not be able to pay back the loans they have taken and recover the cost of inputs that they have put into the farm. And therefore, what the US administration is doing is providing them with support from US taxpayers' money. And so the rest of the US taxpayers are paying $2 billion supposedly to the farmers to get them out of the sticky situation that they are in because of the policies of the US administration.
And how could this uncertain timeline by China affect US soybean purchases?
So, as we have seen in the past, when China promises something, and I'm underlining the word promise, it is not an agreement. It is not bound by anything. And we have never seen China following up on those promises, be it in a trade side, be it in the military side. And that's perhaps the way the Chinese administration operates. So I think the uncertainty will continue. I don't see China going back and picking up any of the soya that they had promised, apparently, because the Chinese never went and said that they are going to buy, that they are promising to buy the soya. It was only the US administration which claimed so. So I don't see in the short run that the Chinese will be going back and buying any of the soya or any of the other agricultural produce, including corn from the US. Having said that, the Brazilian corn is also not available because the demand within Brazil has gone up significantly because of corn-based ethanol and other requirements in terms of meat production, where some of the corn is getting diverted to. So the amount of corn that Brazil is exporting is also reduced. So it'll be interesting to see the dynamics in the corn trade. But in terms of soya trade, it's quite clear. There's
Yes.
enough soya available from non-US sources. China would prefer to buy soya from those sources. China would like to ensure that its supply chain of soya, which is very critical for its food security, is maintained, and they would be hesitant to go back to a not dependable partner in US, and therefore they would stick to Brazilian and Argentinian suppliers who are not only more dependable but also their prices.
Yes, indeed. Doctor, with that, I would like to thank Dr. Jaijit Bhattacharya for joining us today and